ever feel like you're totally killing it in life, like career's going great, you got amazing friends, really the whole nine yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, someone hits you with but are you married?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, hold on, am I missing something here? Like, is that the big thing? I haven't checked off the list.
Right.
So that's what made me want to dive into this. Someone sent in this piece, and it got me thinking.
Yeah.
It's less about like a how-to on marriage and way more about the psychology of why we connect. Like, why do relationships even matter?
It's an age-old question, and it really makes you think about how much relationships have changed, even just in the last couple decades.
Totally. And what really got me was the source. It kind of challenges this whole you complete me thing.
Oh, yeah?
Is marriage really about like splitting your needs 50-50? It definitely made me rethink a few things.
It's interesting how we kind of absorb these expectations about big life decisions. Sometimes it takes spelling it out like this to realize,
Right.
seriously,
Yeah.
sometimes you need that outside perspective to really get it. And, there's this part, they talk about the difference between that butterfly feeling
Oh, yeah.
and that grounded feeling and which one marriage is really going for. Like deep stuff.
It's the classic dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love versus stability.
Right.
But even before we get there, the author, they make this really interesting point right at the start, talking about how connection, it's a fundamental human need,
Yeah.
like deeper than just romance.
Yes. And they phrase it in a way that's not just some like fluffy feel-good thing.
Yeah.
It's essential, almost like biological. And you're the expert here, is that really how it works? Our brains like crave connection the way we need oxygen or something.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. Our brains really are wired for that connection. Like go back, way back, think about survival.
Okay.
Being part of a group, that meant safety, shared resources. So over time, our brains, they started rewarding those feelings of connection with all the good stuff, the dopamine, the oxytocin, all of it.
Belonging, it's not just this abstract thing. It's hardwired into us.
So even if someone thinks they're good on their own, their brain might be running a different program in the background.
Exactly. It goes deeper than just our conscious choices sometimes. And that's part of where marriage comes in. Now, not saying it's the only way to meet that connection need, but it's a structure for it, that's for sure.
And the source points out how it's different even from like your best friend, your family.
Totally.
Those are vital, obviously. But marriage, it's this chosen, enduring bond. So psychologically, how's that different?
Well, for one, there's that intentionality you don't get elsewhere.
Okay.
Like friendships, amazing, vital, but they ebb and flow. Family, you're kind of in it by default.
Right.
With marriage, it's that active choice to be with this person day after day, that commitment, that changes things, whether or not we realize it.
There's almost a weight to it, right?
Exactly, a permanence. Like it or not, that influences how you act, how you get through challenges together.
And we can't forget the legal societal side either. The author doesn't dwell on it, but it's another layer.
Right, absolutely. It formalizes the bond, it raises the stakes, but ideally it makes the rewards even better.
Makes sense.
So you've got that layer. And then on top of that, there's a thing that really fascinated me in this piece.
Okay, what's that?
They get into attachment theory, which I think a lot of people have heard of, but maybe haven't really dived into.
I'll be honest, that was me before reading this. So for those who haven't cracked open an attachment theory textbook lately, what's the deal?
Basically, it says that our earliest experiences, especially with our parents or caregivers, they really shape how we form attachments as adults.
So those early relationships, they kind of create the blueprint, right,
Yeah.
for how we approach relationships later on.
Exactly. Like if those bonds were secure, we tend to feel more secure in our adult relationships. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally.
But if there were inconsistencies, bumps in the road early on,
Oh, yeah.
it can create these patterns where we're drawn to similar dynamics later in life, even if they're not, the healthiest for us.
It's like we're trying to recreate that familiar feeling, even if it wasn't great the first time around.
Exactly. And the author, they point out how this childhood need for security, we often shift it onto our romantic partners.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not that simple, right?
Hey, tell me about it. So many of us have fallen into that trap, thinking, this person will make me complete. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Never really works out that way.
Right. Because you're putting all this pressure on one person to meet every single need.
And that's just setting yourself up for disappointment.
Every single time.
And this is actually what I think is my favorite part of the whole piece, where they talk about this needs trap. That whole expectation that your partner has to be everything to you, best friend, therapist, the whole shebang.
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah.
was like a weight off my shoulders reading that
Yeah.
because it really challenges that narrative. But why is that expectation so strong for us?
It's a lot of things. Honestly, we could do a whole nother deep dive just on that.
Right, well, I put a pin in that one.
But part of it, for sure, is just, societal conditioning. Like, think about every romantic comedy, every love song.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
They paint this picture of two halves making a whole. And it sounds good on paper, but it's just not how humans actually work, you know?
Right, like you just find your other half and everything magically clicks into place.
Exactly. It oversimplifies things. And honestly, I think it sets people up for failure. Because nobody can meet every need you have. Not realistically.
And that's why I love that the author lays out those 4 pillars of value,
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about this.
where they get really specific about what a healthy relationship can provide
Yeah.
without it all being on one person.
That's a good framework.
It is. They talk about material, emotional, growth, and physical as these key areas where a relationship can add value.
Mm,
Now, whether those are equal for everyone, that's up for debate.
right, right.
But the point is, you don't need one person to, like, tick every box.
It's not about finding that one soulmate who checks every single thing on your list.
Exactly. And think about it. Even in your own relationships, romantic or not, have you ever felt like one area was maybe lacking, but another one totally made up for it?
All the time. And that's okay. Relationships, they're like ecosystems, right? There's going to be variation. Different things matter more at different
It's
times.
not about perfect, because that just sounds exhausting.
Agreed.
Okay, get ready for this next part, because this is where things got really interesting for me.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The author makes this distinction between love and marriage,
Yeah.
and it kind of blew my mind.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people use those terms interchangeably, but there's a difference, isn't there?
Big difference, apparently. They're saying we often confuse these two experiences. Love, especially early on, it's all about intensity, excitement.
butterflies?
Yeah, that can't eat, can't sleep kind of energy.
That's the good stuff.
Oh, it is, but, not exactly sustainable long term, nor should it be, probably.
Probably not. Your nervous system would go haywire.
Right. But then they contrast that with marriage, saying that's more about consistency,
Okay.
being that safe haven for each other,
Yeah.
that grounding, knowing the person's there no matter what.
Mm.
Like, both are good, both have their place, but they're different needs they're fulfilling.
It's that butterfly versus grounded thing coming back around full circle.
Exactly. So the question is, are we chasing butterflies in the wrong places sometimes?
Meaning what?
Like craving novelty and excitement when what we really need is that stability and security of a different kind of connection.
That's something to think about, for sure. And not just in romance, honestly. We do it in our careers, hobbies, everything.
True. Always chasing the next best thing, even when what you have is pretty great already.
The human paradox. Always wanting more, even when we have plenty to appreciate right now.
It really is.
Yeah.
Makes you think. I know some people listening might be saying, okay, this is all well and good, but what about insert common marriage complaint here? Like the realities that don't make it into the romantic comedies.
And to that, I think the author would say a lot of that disappointment is because we're looking for nonstop excitement in the wrong place.
So maybe marriage isn't flawed, it's our expectations that are messed up.
Possibly. We think it's supposed to be butterflies forever, and when it naturally evolves into something calmer, deeper, we think that means it's gone wrong.
When really it's just things evolving, Like that's just how relationships go.
It's the natural progression.
Yeah.
And maybe instead of always chasing that early intensity, what if we embraced what comes next? Like that deeper level of connection, a different kind of fulfillment.
You know, I've totally been guilty of that, even outside of romance, just that constant need for the next thing. But what this conversation's really shown me, and maybe for you listening too, it's like real fulfillment, maybe it's less about the highs and lows and more about finding that contentment in the everyday, knowing someone's got your back no matter what.
That's a great way to put it. And honestly, I think that's what's so valuable about this whole piece. It's not about like glorifying marriage or anything. It's about getting how connection works on a deeper level. We all crave it, relationship or not.
That's so true. Married, single, whatever,
Yeah.
we want to feel seen, understood. And this gave us a whole different way to think about it,
Yeah.
Like, are those fairy tales we're told, are they setting us up with unrealistic expectations? It's not always about finding the one. Maybe it's more about understanding yourself and what you need to feel connected, fulfilled.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about knowing your own needs, being able to tell the difference between what you think you want in the moment and those deeper longings that are going to last. And maybe even questioning those stories society tells us about how this is all supposed to go.
Right. Like there's no one right answer for everybody. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What if you stripped away all those expectations, all the pressure to find that perfect person, the perfect relationship? What does deep connection actually look like for you? And it doesn't even have to be romantic, just what kind of relationship makes you feel truly seen, supported?
What makes you feel like you belong?
It's a question worth sitting with. And maybe this gave you some new stuff to think about as you do.
Yeah.
And hey, if you want, share your thoughts. We love hearing how this lands with you. Until next time, keep exploring.